Thank you so much, Jerry, for this kind introduction. Thank you very much, Yoga Health Expo, for this opportunity to be talking about one of the most sought after topics in this world right now, which is mental health. So before I dive deeper into this, I would love to hear back from you. If you can hear me properly, everything is solid. You can see me. Could you please let me know?
Yes, Simi, you can be heard and seen. All good.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Rizwan. Awesome, guys. So we are all here, right? And the best way that I like to communicate here with lots and lots of amazing tips and important information related to the most important topic, mental health. I would love for us to first bring our intention and our energy in this present moment because we tend to distract a lot, right? There are so many things that we're doing at once in our life. For the next 25, 30 minutes that I'm speaking, I'm sure there's going to be something that you're going to take home today. So the first thing that we want to do is to just bring our intention that we're going to be present in the present moment and maybe listen out some of the ideas, maybe listen out some of the important pieces of information that can make a difference. And the fact is that mental health is everybody's business. It is not that somebody is born with a better mental health than others. We are all struggling with our mental health in some way or the other. And when we actually talk about the definition of mental health, it is about our emotional, psychological, and our social well-being. So our emotions are our daily business, isn't it? So we go through different bouts of emotions. We go from, feeling the sadness to the levels of depression. And sometimes we have very subtle feelings such as irritation, frustration. Then we sometimes confuse that with anger. It is not necessary that if I'm frustrated, I'm angry, right? So there are levels of emotions that we all go through every day. So it is important for us to pay attention to our psychological, emotional, and social well-being because these are the aspects that not only shapes your personality, how you show up in the world, but also offers you a significant place to grow in your life. Because when you are in control, when you are in charge, then you have a better mental health. Then the chances are that you have a better physical health. The chances are that you have better relationships. And the chances are that you are going to grow, scale up your career, your business, and have more financial success. So everything is originating from within. So mental health, if we understand from what is happening in the world, there are certain denominations to it, such as when people struggle with chronic stress, anxiety, depression, or finding it symptomatically disturbing them, such as not able to sleep properly every day, not able to focus on the activities, not able to find that grounding, that feeling of being settled, the feeling that I am in control, the feeling that my connection with myself and life all around me is not that solid. This all can cause a certain amount of feeling out of place, or not feeling that I am releasing my potential, not feeling that I'm worthy or self-confident. So mental health is really the basics. It is the foundation of your growth in your life. That's why it is an important topic to address. And linking that with yoga is something that is probably the most important thing, the foundational thing that we should be even talking about every day, because there are treatments to anxiety and depression and other psychotherapies that people are following, including myself. I've been so vocal about my mental health, and I went through panic attacks, anxiety disorder, was taking antidepressants for a certain time period, and that was the time when I actually started to asking myself the important questions such as, how did I get here? What exactly led me into a place where I'm struggling to wake up every morning and have the confidence to do what is needed to be done, which is bare minimum going to the office, have a beautiful, productive day. It is because if you have ever struggled with mental health issues, you know that it can rip you apart. It can steal your confidence. It can create self-loathing and self-misery and an experience of depression, which can then make people do silly things, which can make people do difficult things, which can make people do scary things. So our addiction to the substances, or addiction to social media, or addiction to any other distractions that can temporarily pull you out of your emotional disturbances, are in fact building this at an even bigger level. So the important thing is for us to acknowledge that, well, even if I'm feeling good right now, I still can improve my mental health. And if I am experiencing chronic anxiety, stress, or depression or sadness, it is something that can be cured. And I always say that if you're taking medications, if medication is helping you, it is a good place to start. Yes, but that's not the cure. So why are we even talking about this in the Yoga Expo is because there's a significant correlation between your mental health improvement and yogic methods. So yoga, I'm sure that we've heard all the speakers talking about the nuances of yoga, the foundation of yoga, the principles of yoga. What I'm going to do is to break it into 3 pieces so that we can understand the context and the application of yogic principles, as well as some of the practices that we can apply in our daily life. So if you're here, if you're listening to me, and if you're like, hey, Simi, let's do this, let's just talk about these 3 aspects, then type yes in the chat box, because this will tell me that you're here present mentally and are also listening. So the 3 important elements of mental health. The first is relaxation. Second is response. And third is rejuvenation. Relaxation. How do we feel relaxed? When we notice that we can sit present in the moment and feel that our body, mind is in alignment, and we feel that wherever we are sitting, wherever we are present in the moment, we feel comfortable. We'll feel comfortable. Now, most of the times when we're stressed, most of the times when we are creating an emotional disruption or an emotional outburst, what exactly is happening is we are responding to the stimulus that life is creating. So most of the times, even the small things appear as to be threat. Small changes, such as getting stuck in traffic or not knowing how to have a difficult conversation. So what happens in our brain is there's a part in the brain, it's called amygdala. Amygdala gets, stimulated, and it releases a chemical in the body called cortisol. Amygdala basically sends a signal to pineal gland that releases the chemical cortisol in the body. When the chemical cortisol is increased, then our stress level increases. So we need to understand that our brain is always in defense. The work of the brain is to preserve you. So we carry a brain that was utilized for self-preservation. But at this time in our lives, we are not under threat, like physical threat or danger in our lives. But our mind, our brain is still operating with the similar amygdala that was activated 50,000 years ago. So when there's a difficult conversation, when there is a conflict, when there is being stuck in traffic, what happens is that we start to perceive those experiences as threat. And a hyper-stimulated amygdala is then releasing cortisol in the body. So how does yoga help us? Well, there is something called vagus nerve. I'm sure some of you have probably read about it. If you haven't read about it, then I'm going to just tell you that there is a nerve. It's a pretty long nerve. It's called vagus nerve. It starts from your throat and it goes all the way, passing through all your organs into your gut. When we take a pause and breathe deeply, we stimulate this vagus nerve. And once we do that, we activate rest and digest response. We slow down the stimulus in the brain. We slow down the impulses in the brain. And then when this vagus nerve is activated, our parasympathetic nervous system gets activated, which is the system of rest and digest. And as we're all aware, yoga is about pranayama as well. Yoga is about your connection with yourself. Yoga is about your connection with your breathing. So when we sit down and do a deep breathing, and there are certain practices in pranayama, there are two specific of them. One is Ujjayi pranayama and second is Brahmari pranayama. So basically, even just making a sound called where we are activating our throat chakra is going to activate your vagus nerve. And then you will notice after maybe a couple of minutes that you feel a little bit more calm, relaxed, and rested. It is because when this nerve is stimulated, your parasympathetic nervous system gets activated. That tells you there is no certain threat. You're fine. You're comfortable. You're okay. So dealing with daily anxiety is going to be very much, turned around and can even be improved significantly if you practice these two pranayams every day. Pranayam is holding of the breath. So 4, 6, 8, a very basic technique where you inhale at the count of 4, hold the breath at the count of 6, release the breath at the count of 8, whereas the holding time is pranayam. Pranayam, which means that you're holding the breath for those 6 seconds. This also activates your parasympathetic nervous system. And the more you stay in the parasympathetic nervous system, the better the chances that you're going to have some control over your mental activity, some control over your stressful experiences, and how you process them, and how you perceive them, and how you react to them. And that leads me to the second very important aspect of your mental health, which is your response time. Response. It's less about the events. It is a lot about how we respond to them, right? And yes, I understand frustration is the most normal thing. Anxiety also is a very normal thing. But staying there is not normal. Let's say if you got angry at somebody and you're just really creating this stressful emotions and conflict and turbulence in your being, if you do not address it right there and then, what's going to happen is it's going to expand, because now there's a cycle of thoughts that is repeating itself, and then it is creating what? It is creating even more disturbance by release of this chemical called cortisol. So my whole responsibility in that moment is to first acknowledge that I'm upset, that I'm frustrated, or maybe even I'm angry to a certain extent. But am I going to stay here, or am I going to change this? So then you say, yeah, well, I'm going to change it because I don't want to stay there. It's not a very good experience. So there are certain things that we do, right? We will get out for a walk or talk to a friend, or, maybe go for exercise, basic things that we can do to change the state of our mind. Now, when we practice yoga diligently and make it a part of our life, you will see that naturally your response time to certain stimulus that is triggering the emotional outburst is now slowing down. You're not quick to react. You're responding efficiently. Now, how does that happen? Scientifically, because I talk science, I'm always going to give you the reason behind all these shifts that happen in our mind and body. The first thing is, when we practice physical asanas, most of the times we've noticed there's the hold time. This whole time teaches us patience. Then secondly, when we practice pranayama as an activity where we are often living in the parasympathetic nervous system, our connection with ourselves has deepened. We have realized that not everything is just black and white. There are so many gray areas that we live in. Not everything is about good or bad. There are going to be some things in between that are happening in my favor, and sometimes it doesn't look that it's happening in my favor. There are so many aspects that are between good and bad. that are going to cause some conflict, but they're not necessarily important for me to always be reactive to. So breathing exercises, asanas, and also meditation, dhyan, dharana, samadhi, which is the three separate limbs of yoga, having a meditation practice in place, whether it's a mantra meditation, whether you listen to an audio every day, whether you're looking at the candle for a couple of minutes and just being present, whatever way you feel that works for you to be in that meditative space, even for a couple of minutes a day, it is going to give you a little sense of control. And there's a chemical that is released. It's called GABA, G-A-B-A, gamma aminobutyric acid, which is also responsible for activation of your parasympathetic nervous system. And there's a significant data that shows us that when we practice yoga and pranayama every day, there is more GABA component in our body. So when science is telling you you can make more GABA if you practice this every day, so then obviously it makes sense for us to be dedicating maybe 20, 30 minutes a day for certain practices that I know are going to make me a better leader. Who is a better leader? Who is a great performer? Who is a great productive person, a successful man or a woman? They are the ones who have a better control of when to open their mouth and when to shut it down, who have a better way of managing people around them, managing their relationships. They don't put themselves into conflicts and create more anxiety, more stress. Okay. So the third thing that we were talking about is rejuvenation. Rejuvenation is the element where we are not only fixing our mental health, if there is a certain amount of anxiety and depression that you're experiencing, but also activating our cerebral aspect, our cognitive ability. There are two very important parts of our brain. One is cerebral cortex and other one is hippocampus. One is for the learning, other one is for the memory. And these are very important. The more you practice yoga, breathing exercises and asanas and meditation, what starts to happen, these parts of your brain, their lining starts to get thickened. And when that happens, your analytical ability, your cognitive power, your learning ability, and your memory also sharpens. And that is very much a part of your mental health. Very much a part of your mental health. Because think about this. A lot of times when we get stressed or anxious, we lose our ability to focus. We lose our ability to be present. We get into the same cycle of repetitive thinking. We are overthinking. Again, getting into the cycle of creating more cortisol chemical, more adrenaline in the body, which is putting you at a risk of getting a panic attack or even, eventually, get to the antidepressants because you feel that you don't have any control over your mind. Just sitting with yourself and being present and holding your breath for a few seconds, I promise you will get some sense of control back in your life. It is that powerful. And the more you continue to do it, the more you'll notice that there is a separation, that you are not your body, you are not your mind, you are the one who is experiencing it. You become the witness of the thoughts that are conflicting. You become the witness of the experience, whether it's an experience of sadness, depression, anxiousness, agitation, frustration, anger. They are just experiences. I am the one who is experiencing them. I am not identified with them. So staying with yourself, taking a few deep breaths, holding your breath, doing the pranayama, being on your mat, sitting with yourself, and even practicing child pose on the mat can give you some sense of control. And end of the day, that's what we really want. Mental health issues, as I said, we're all struggling in a certain way. And I have had like a terrible experience with that. It is because a lot of us have childhood traumas. A lot of us have not addressed some of the emotional experiences that we've had in the childhood, or maybe some setbacks, emotional setbacks, or maybe some of the challenges that we recently went through. When we do not address them efficiently, when we do not pay attention and we distract ourselves by letting ourselves in different situations which are temporarily pleasing, we tend to build so much of subconscious pressure, subconscious stress, which is going to cause you some sort of mental health issue. So the important thing that we need to know is that yoga is a gift. This knowledge is a gift. Practicing, whether alone or in the group setting, is a commitment. It's a commitment to yourself because you're alive right now. It's a commitment to know that there's one thing that you got, all of us got while we're alive, is our breath. Because once breath is gone, you are gone for sure. So there has to be a purpose of this thing, isn't it? Breath is the link that you have with the life through this body and mind. So staying with that breath, paying attention to this breath, is what is going to connect you with yourself, connect you with your source, whosoever, in whatever form you believe in. It's going to lead that connection. It's going to build that divine connection. And that strengthens you. And then that tells you that you're not alone here. And mental health is something that is an ever-changing phenomenon. Today, if you're feeling anxiety, this shall pass. But you're always in charge, and you're always going to do what it takes to make sure that you put yourself in a very comfortable, relaxed, and rejuvenated state of mind. So I'll just recap everything. In the recap, what I'm going to share with you are a couple of tips. First of all, I mean, you've taken, I'm sure that there are some nuggets of wisdom that you took along today, some inspiration, something that is going to stay with you. How I do practice yoga every day is that I made myself a little place where I go to, and where I feel that the moment I sit down, it builds a certain type of connection. Even if I get 10 minutes, 15 minutes a day, I go there. Because I believe if I am okay, then I can make everything else okay. Then I can run a smart, good business. Then I can make my spouse, my friends, my relationships, my parents happy. If I am not feeling good, nobody is going to come for my rescue. I am the in charge. I am the one responsible for my happiness. That means I have to commit to myself that my health is my responsibility, and I'm going to make sure that I give time to myself. There's nothing else that's more important than your mental health and your well-being, your overall well-being. So thank you so much for being here and listening to these ideas. If there's any question anybody has, I'd definitely love to answer. Otherwise, I wish you well. I hope that you stay on your path, because I'm sure all of us, you're here because you value mental health, you value yogic way of living, you value this life, this beautiful planet, and you want to make this world a beautiful place to stay, to live. And I wish you all the very best, and stay on your path, stay empowered, and continue to take care of your mental health. Lots of love.